Hey, I'm Taylor from Ragnarok Studios, and this is your 360-degree Sacred Knowledge tutorials. This is part one of how to make a friction fire with the bow drill method. In this 360-degree environment, feel free to follow along with me, explore your environment, and check out the pop-up videos and notes for more information. Part one is about how to find and source your materials needed for your kit. So your bow drill kit consists of a spindle, a fireboard or hearth board, a handhold, a bow, and some tinder. For the spindle and for the fireboard, a soft to medium hardness of wood is desirable. It's ideal. It'll produce the easiest fire. Woods like that around here on Vancouver Island will be cedar, cottonwood, elderberry, willow, aspen. Some of the harder woods like arbutus and oak, they're going to be more difficult to work with. They don't give up the fine dust needed to produce a coal as easily. And some of the other softer woods like spruce and pine, some of the firs, they have a little more resin in them. And as you start to twirl the spindle and give off a powder, that powder will be a little bit sticky because of the resin. If your wood is dry enough, don't discount any wood, because if it's dry enough, it could work. But ideally, cedar, cottonwood, elderberry, those are three of my favorites, and cedar is the one I stumble across most, so it's the one I use the most and the one I recommend trying out. Using the other woods, harder woods, are good to practice on because they'll really refine your technique. But cedar is a great one to find, and that's what you want to use for your spindle and your hearth board. Now, talking about those hardwoods like arbutus and oak, we want to maximize the friction down here with the soft woods that give up the powder easily, but we want to minimize friction at the top of the spindle. So the top of the spindle ideally is something a lot harder. So this is a piece of arbutus branch, just sliced down the middle and a small hole carved in. This hard wood will not powder up very easily. Besides arbutus and oak and the hardwoods, you could use a rock, a stone that you find that has a little indentation in it, or some bone. Now, your bow, there's a lot of options when it comes to choosing your bow. It's probably going to be the easiest thing you can find. Now, you can use anything from a hard straight stick, a hard curved stick, to a sapling that has some flex and some bend to it. Anything will work. As you put your cordage on, if you're using something that's a lot stiffer, you have to be a little bit more precise on how taut, how loose that string is. You want that spindle to be held nice and tight in your string. So ideally, a flexible sapling works best. As you put your spindle inside, the sapling will bend, and it'll be under pressure, and it'll want to straighten out. And because it wants to straighten out, that string is nice and tight on the spindle. So ideally, a flexible sapling works good. You can tie the string tight on it. At one end, you tie a pretty secure knot. You can notch the wood a little bit to create a groove for your string, for your cordage to follow in. Tie a secure knot. At the other end, a knot that you can adjust easily should you have to adjust the tension. When it comes to choosing the cordage for your bow, I like to use paracord. I keep it on me. I make it a habit to keep it on me at all times. So I suggest that you do that, whether you swap out your shoelaces for paracord, or you wear a paracord bracelet that can be untied and give you about 5-6 feet of paracord, or you just have it wrapped around your knife sheath, because most likely you're going to be making this bow drill kit with your knife, and maybe you have some wrapped around your knife, or you just always keep it with you. Paracord makes a great cordage. You can do this with natural cordage. It's just going to take a lot more effort. They don't last as long. They're maybe not as durable, but just keeping a little bit of paracord on you is really good. If you wanted to go a more natural route, you can harvest roots, twist those up, Another natural fiber. This was made out of deer tendon. I mean, this is super strong. I would use this just as much as paracord, but getting deer tendon to this point is not really going to be, ideal. You can make natural fibers out of cedar and other plant materials. It's just going to take longer. They're not going to last as long. They might break on you. Definitely experiment with that, but if you have some paracord on you, that's going to be the ideal route. One more little piece to mention is, as we go through the technique in the next part, is to have something underneath your fireboard as you twist to catch the dust and catch the coal, so that you can separate the fireboard, have the coal sitting on something that's ideally dry. If it's wet or moist, that could suck away the heat or add some moisture to your coal, and you're trying to put all the odds in your favor. So something that the coal is burning on this, and then it can be transferred into your tinder bundle. So with the tinder bundle, really any dry, fluffy, fibrous material is going to work well. So this is some fluffed up bark from the cedar tree. So there was a downed cedar tree I came across yesterday. I stripped some of the bark off. It had been there for a while. This is the inner and the outer bark together. The inner bark separates fairly easy from the outer bark. There's still some inner bark in there. You can grab this inner bark off and just fluff it up, manhandle it, break it all apart. Keep doing that until it just gets as fluffy as it's going to be. Other material that works good is, after a windstorm, finding some lichen on the ground. Unless it's a survival situation or really important that you get a fire going, I don't really want to rip this stuff right off the trees. But if it's fallen on the ground, then feel free to use it. It does take a long time to grow, and if it's on the ground, that's a good time to harvest it. It's off the trees, and you can harvest quite a bit of it after a windstorm. If this is dry, mix it. You can mix and match these as well, have them all together. And what you want to do is, after this is all fluffed up, whatever materials you're using, other inner barks will work as well, not just cedar. Dried cleavers, dried grasses, dried leaves. I've made tinder bundles out of dried salal leaves before, just 100% dried salal leaves, and that worked. Experiment with it, add all sorts of materials in there, and have your finest. What you're trying to do is make a bird's nest. You're going to shape this into a bird's nest, and in the very center of the bird's nest, where you want to drop the coal, have your fluffiest, lightest material. And as you use your bow drill and you get a little bit of excess dust, maybe on a failed attempt, save that and put it inside your tinder bundle. That'll act like a coal extender. That stuff ignites really easily. Another great coal extender is the top of cattail. The top of cattail, the seed head, really fluffy, really light. Grab a bunch of this and put this right in the center of your tinder bundle. Right in the center, drop your coal right in there. That stuff doesn't flame up very easily, but it'll grow with your ember, create a bigger coal, which will help ignite the surrounding tinder a lot easier. Now, finding some of this material, finding cedar for your spindle. Here on Vancouver Island, we have access to a lot of beaches. My favorite wood to find is some driftwood cedar. It doesn't even have to be on the ocean side. Along riverbanks and along lakes that have beaches, and you can find the driftwood there. And what I'm looking for that, where the cedar stands out from the other wood, is it's usually a little bit darker, almost a little bit gray. You see a lot of straight grain. Sometimes there's like little hairs that are coming off it as well that distinguish it from some of the other smooth driftwood out there. And then if you pick it up, it'll be fairly light, and you split it open and it'll have that nice dark western red cedar color. You'll see that beautifully straight grain, and still has that nice aromatic smell to it. This stuff's usually nice and dried out. It's been there a long time. It carves up easy. You make your fireboard out of it. You make your spindle out of it. If you're walking through the woods and you find a fallen cedar that's been down for a while, try that out. Dead branches, cottonwood trees, you know, they like to grow in moist soil along riverbanks. You'll maybe find a turned over stump that's been there on the rocky shore for a long time. You know, I've ripped those apart and used that, and that made really, really great spindles and fireboards. Elderberry is good again. Elderberry, finding a branch that's dead, but not too dead. If the wood you're using is too dead, too punky, then it's going to disintegrate. So one of the tests for that is the thumbnail test to know if you got the proper softness of your wood. If you press your thumbnail into it and you make an indentation rather easily, it might be a good indication that you have a soft wood to use. If you can scrape that wood away with your fingernail, it's too punky. It's just going to disintegrate. If it's a hardwood like arbutus, I mean, you're going to struggle to put a fingernail mark into it. But if you can put the fingernail mark into it, if it cuts up fairly easy with your knife, you have a good wood. And experiment, because the more you fail with making a bow drill, the more you're going to learn and the better you're going to get at it. So that's the parts of a bow drill kit. Stay tuned for part 2, and we're going to go how to carve it. Thanks.